Hi, this is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com. Welcome to That Was the Week That Was in South Carolina College Baseball for April the 6th through the 12th. Going to look back at some of the things that happened over the past week. Also take a look at the team rankings, the team of the week, and the schedule for the coming week and team conference standings. Just try to hit a little bit of the highlights and all the things going on around college baseball in South Carolina. This is part of my coverage of college baseball in the state. Available at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. You can also follow me on X for updates during the day. My handle is PalmettoBase. You can email me at RudyJones@PalmettoStateBaseball.com. And also there's a Facebook group called Palmetto State Baseball Group, oddly enough. Let's take a look at some of the things that happened during this past week and go on from there. On Tuesday, had some interesting games. Coastal Carolina got a nice 2-1 win over Wake Forest up at Durham Bulls Athletic Park. The Chanticleers, they take on all-comers. They're doing well, getting that nice win over an ACC team. Down in Columbia, College of Charleston scored a couple runs in the ninth inning and beat South Carolina by a score of 6-4. Also on Tuesday, Francis Marion got a nice non-conference win over Lander. Georgia and Presbyterian played in Athens after half inning, or actually after 1.5 innings, it was 1-0 PC. After 3 innings, it was 24-1 Georgia. Bulldogs wound up winning that game 28-3. PC got really hammered in that, but they had a much better finish to the week. We'll talk about that later on. Another game on Tuesday night was North Greenville and Anderson resuming their rivalry. They used to be bitter rivals. Well, as bitter as I guess two Baptist colleges can be when they were junior colleges. But North Greenville won this game 16-3 over at Floor Field and over about somewhere around about 800 people watching it. So it was a nice little crowd for a D2 game. They're not in the same conference for baseball, but still is a good non-conference meeting. Also, the Citadel got a nice win over Charleston Southern on Tuesday by a final score of 14-6. USC Upstate beat Western Carolina by a score of 18-11. Very nice. On Wednesday, Citadel kept it up. They went up to Winthrop and cooled off the Eagles of Winthrop by a score of 10-8. And that evened the Bulldogs' record at 16-16. There were a couple of games played on Thursday between Morris and Florida National. And it was a tough break for the Hornets in game one of that doubleheader against Florida National. Adrian Canonis, who had a couple of great games for Morris earlier in the season, he suffered an injury and had to leave the game. They had to call an ambulance for him. I like to have a baseball game on in the background, just kind of as noise in the background. I happen to have that game on. There's not any play-by-play. It's just an open mic and video. And I saw him down on the ground. I didn't actually see the play happen. I just saw the aftermath. And then about 5 minutes or so after he was on the ground, I heard the ambulance come, and I'm thinking, oh no, I hope that's not for him. But as it turns out that was, they took him to get treatment, and Coach Zay Paul told me that he suffered a wrist injury. So I would suspect he's not going to be back the rest of the season. So good luck to Adrian Canonis. He had a couple of great games back-to-back against Bob Jones earlier in the year. In fact, he made Player of the Day for 2 straight days. That doesn't happen a whole lot at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. Moving on to the weekend, South Carolina was out at Missouri for a series. The Gamecocks had never swept a series at Missouri since the Tigers got into the league in 2013, and they did win this one. The Gamecocks won all 3. They got some brilliant pitching the first 2 days from Brandon Stone in Game 1 and then in Amp Phillips in Game 2. Got kind of a conglomerate of pitchers in Game 3 to get them through that. A little bit of excitement. They were up 6-2 going to the ninth, gave up a couple of runs, had the potential winning run at the plate in the ninth before they got out of that. And again, Carolina got a sweep to finish their weekend, finish the week 3-1. And that loss to Charleston doesn't look quite as bad, or it won't hurt Sting quite as bad after getting 3 conference wins. Interesting little tidbit. The Gamecocks are now 5-10 in the SEC. They are 5-6 since Monty Lee took over as interim coach. They lost their first 4 under Paul Maneri, and they were 6-25 under Maneri last year, counting the SEC tournament loss in the first round. So in Maneri's tenure, they were 6-29 in the SEC. In 11 games, Monty Lee is 5-6. So I think the Gamecocks have traded up so far with what's going on. Over at Clemson, they had a big series against North Carolina. Tigers won the first game, got some momentum going. Game 2, they were up by 2 runs going into the 8th inning. North Carolina got a run in the got a run in the 8th, got a run in the 9th. Wound up winning it in extra innings. A couple of unearned runs off of a squeeze play. It's kind of a wacky thing. A dropped fly ball set up, helped load the bases in the inning. The Heels try to squeeze bunt. Pitcher fielded it, tried to do a little bit of a desperation shovel to the catcher. It got away, and the second run scored, and the Heels wound up winning 6-4. Then on Sunday, Gavin Gallagher homered in the first inning, and they got a 5-run fourth inning from the Heels, and they went on to win that game 12-5. I know it's a disappointment for Clemson. They were hoping to get back, climb up in the standings a ways, but as it turns out, they go 1-2. They're 23-14 now, and they are 5-10 in the ACC. Speaking of which, a month ago, if I'd have told you that South Carolina and Clemson were going to have the same conference record at the midpoint of the conference schedule, you'd have probably told me I was crazy. But here we are. Both of them are 5-10 in the conference with 15 games remaining. I think Clemson's got a better shot at playing its way into an at-large bid. They've got some cotton to chop, though. They're going to have to probably finish 12-3, I would think, to have a decent chance. Well, 11-4 maybe, but that's going to be a tall order. Finish 11-4 in the conference to have a shot at an at-large bid. Otherwise, they'd have to win the ACC tournament. South Carolina, they still got a long way to go. I don't know that they can finish 11-4 or 12-3, although they did get much, much better pitching this past week. Granted, it was Missouri. Hitting still got some issues, although they got some power on Saturday with 4 home runs. But we'll just see what we shall see about the Gamecocks and the Tigers over the last half of their conference schedule. Coastal Carolina went into Friday night's 9th inning at Arkansas State. Arkansas State's a dangerous place to play. They were 13-3 at home this year. They'd won all 3 of their previous Sun Belt Conference series 2-1. And the Red Wolves took a 7-3 lead going into the top of the 9th on Friday night. And lo and behold, Coastal Carolina ties it before there's an out made, and they wound up scoring 7 runs in the inning and winning 10-7. Sean said they're never behind. They never give up. That was their 17th come from behind win of the season. They also won on Saturday. They wound up losing on Sunday to go 2-1. They're now 26-9, but still, that's to go out there and especially to get that big win on Friday night after trailing was something. Also, the Shantz draw crowds when they're playing. They had a stadium record of over 2,000 for Saturday's game, so it's nice to see that the Sun Belt Conference is proving it's on the rise as far as some good caliber of baseball. Elsewhere, College of Charleston got 3 wins over North Carolina A&T over the weekend in Coastal Athletic Association play, and all of them were come from behind. Cougars fell behind 4-0 Friday night, came back and won. Fell behind 3-0 Saturday, came back and won. Fell behind 4-0 today, came back and won. All those deficits were in the first inning as well. The Cougars stole 21 bases in the 3 games, including 10 on Saturday. Reece Holbrook had a really nice weekend. He went 6 for 9 with 3 stolen bases, 3 runs scored, 4 runs driven in. He had a double and 3 walks. So he's doing well. Batting 9 in the lineup, but he's raised his batting average about 35 points this week. So good for Reece as he's doing well. North Greenville swept the series at UNC Pembroke. That was a dangerous series, but they won it. They stayed in first place in the Conference Carolinas, and they're now on an 11-game winning streak. Florence-Darlington Tech stretched its winning streak to 8 games. They won 4 games this week, including a sweep of USC Salkehatchie. Salkehatchie, unfortunately, has lost 28 straight games. Upstate and Charleston Southern had a nice series in the Big South Conference. The Spartans won the first two games. They beat up on the Buccaneers pretty good, but Charleston Southern replayed the favor on Sunday to salvage the last game. So that was that. Wofford picked to finish last in the Southern Conference by the coaches. They're now sitting on top of the conference with three of the 7 weeks of conference play out of the way. They're 8-1 in the conference, 2 games ahead of the next closest competitors. Had 3 pretty good games against the Citadel. They were close games. The Terriers pulled away on the Sunday to get a 5-3 win, 2 runs in the 7th inning to take the lead. So the Terriers are playing pretty good right now. They're 25-11. How about down at Clemson? I mentioned PC got hammered by Georgia on Tuesday. Well, they came back. They lost to Winthrop, who was first place in the Big South Conference on Friday. That improved the Eagles' record to 7-0 in the conference. And lo and behold, PC wins the next 2 games to take the series 2-1. They came from behind multiple times on Sunday and got 4 runs after Winthrop scored 5 runs in the top of the 8th. The Blue Hose scored 4 in the bottom of the 8th, topped by a 2-run single by James Green to put the Blue Hose ahead, and they held on to win 12-10. Good series win. I know that'll help make practices a little bit more enjoyable as they go into the week. Newberry played a ranked Wingate team. Wingate's in the top 10, top 5 in a couple of places. They got a win in the middle game of the series, so that was nice. Erskine swept Barton. They've now won 11 of their last 12 games, so the Flying Fleet have got the ship righted after a tough start. And how about Bob Jones player Henry Rumble? The Bruins played 4 games against Baptist University of Florida over the weekend in Conisty, and the Bruins lost 2 games on Friday. They won the 2 games on Saturday, and for the series, Henry Rumble was 9 for 13 with a double, a triple, 2 home runs, a walk, 2 stolen bases, 6 runs scored, 11 RBI, and a hit by pitch. He is batting .440 for the season as a freshman, and he's on a 13-game hitting streak during which he is batting .581. Not too shabby for that young man. A couple of other notes before we get on into future things. Charlie Bussey III of Francis Marion became the school's single-season runs scored leader this past week, or actually maybe the previous weekend. He is now up to 79 runs scored in 42 games. Is that good, you say? Well, look at some of the NCAA Division I teams. The top 2 run scorers. Top 2 run scorers for USC Upstate. Henry Zener and Jake Armstead have scored a total of 71 runs. Nate Savoy and Jack Crichton of Clemson, a total of 64 runs. Dean Mihos and Walker Mitchell of Coastal Carolina, a total of 65 runs. The top 2 run scorers for South Carolina, Will Craddock and Matthew Talmadge Leakroy, 45 runs. So yeah, one guy having 79 runs scored in 42 games is a pretty big deal. Awfully strong. How about the team of the week for last week? I picked Wofford. They went 4-0. They stayed atop the Southern Conference standings. They're 2 games ahead of East Tennessee State and Western Carolina in the standings. Wofford's 8-1. East Tennessee State and Western Carolina are both 6-3. Terriers are 25-11 overall. Really playing well right now. Looked at several teams for the team of the week. I thought about College Charleston. They're 4-0. Coastal's 3-1. When they lose, it's almost like it's a down week for them. Erskine, as I mentioned, has won 10 of their last 11. They're 3-0 this past week. FD Tech with 8 straight wins. Francis Marion with 5 straight wins, 4-0 last week. North Greenville at 11 wins. South Carolina is first ever sweep at Missouri for a 3-1 week. USC Aiken 4-0. They beat neighborhood rival Augusta 3 straight games in Peach Belt Conference play. USC Sumter was 3-2. They got beat 2 out of 3 by Lancaster, but they still, they won 3 games. And Upstate was 3-1, including that loss to Charleston Southern on Sunday. How about the the rankings by for the various divisions in the Palmetto State? In NCAA Division I, I've got Coastal staying at number 1. They're 26-9. They were number 1 last week. I moved Clemson back ahead of Winthrop, even though the Tigers had a 2-2 week. They're 23-14. They're now they lost 2 straight 2-2 this past week. Winthrop, I dropped from second to third. They were 1-3 last week, 23-13. South Carolina, and it starts to get kind of dicey from here. You can really jumble it up pretty much from here on out. South Carolina was 3-1 last week. I kept them at number 4. You say, but they lost to College of Charleston. Yeah, they did. But they went and beat Missouri. So I kept them number 4. Wofford, they were 4-0 last week. I kept them at number 5. They won 4 straight. USC Upstate, I dropped them one from, I moved them up one from 7 to 6 because they won 2 of 3 over Charleston Southern. Okay, Charleston Southern I put at 7. They went 1-3, but they did win that final game against Upstate. College of Charleston, I've got at 8th. I've moved them from 9th to 8th. Went 4-0 last week. They got the same record as the Citadel. The Citadel is 16-19, just like College of Charleston. They were 2-3 last week. One of their wins was over Charleston Southern. You know, it's one of those things. If you just go flat head to head, you're always going to be moving teams up and down by the week. So really, from about 4 to 9, there's not a whole lot of difference between the teams among Division I teams in the state. And PC, even though they won 2 games, I've still got them at 10th place just because there's so many teams so much further ahead of them. But if the Blue Hose keep playing like they did this past week, they could start climbing. Things stayed mostly the same in NCAA Division II. Got North Greenville staying at number 1. They're 36-7 overall. They won 11 straight games. Francis Marion, I kept at number 2. 1-5 straight. USC Aiken, I moved up one. I moved them behind Lander last week, but the Pacers went 4-0 this week, including that sweep of Augusta. So they're now 30-12. I moved them from 4th back up to 3rd. Lander I dropped from 3rd to 4th because they dropped a couple of games, including one to Georgia College team they probably shouldn't have lost to in the Peach Belt Conference. The Bearcats are number 4. Although they got a great win on Sunday when Ryan Hansen drove in 5 runs, including the go-ahead run in the 9th innings. They rallied for a nice win over the Bobcats. Newberry kept at number 5. They got that win over Wingate as part of a 2-2 week. Erskine, I kept them at number 6. They're 23-20, the best they've been above 500 so far in the season. They won 4 straight. Benedict, I kept at 16-10. They did not get to play a game this week. For whatever reason, the Albany State coach came in and said he did not like the field conditions. He had some complaints about several things, apparently, and they were not able to get them resolved, so they postponed the entire series. Hopefully, they'll get to reschedule at some point in the season. I have not heard what's going on with that. But Benedict stayed 7th. They're 16-10. Anderson, I kept at 8th place. They were 20-21 now. They were 2-2 last week. Got a series win over Coker. Southern Wesleyan, I kept at number 9. They were 0-4 last week. Got swept by Belmont Abbey. Belmont Abbey's a good program. No disgrace to do that. Coker, I stayed at number 10. They were 1-3 last week. Got a win over Anderson in the middle game of the series. They're at 11-29. USC Beaufort got a nice win on Sunday. Scored a couple runs in the 9th inning to avoid being swept by Eckerd in a non-conference series. And the Sand Sharks are now 11-29. Claflin is still at number 12. They went 0-3 this past week. Got run ruled 3 times by Middle Georgia and also got shut out twice in that series. In NAIA and National Christian College Athletic Association rankings, I kept Spartanburg Methodist at number 1. They were 1-3. Their 3 losses were to Georgia Gwinnett, which is ranked either number 1 or number 2 in the country in NAIA, depending on the poll you have. The games were not particularly close, but hey, they were playing the top-ranked, top 3 team. Columbia International kept at number 2. They were 2-3 this past week, including a win over Reinhardt in the finale of their Appalachian Athletic Conference series on Saturday. Morris went 1-3 last week. They're 8-14 now. I kept them in number 3. Bob Jones 2-2 with that series against Baptist University of Florida. They're 11-22, and they have matched their 2025 win total of 11 wins. So the Bruins for Coach Kyle Marston have got some room to have a better record this year than they did last year. And in 5th place, I have Voorhees. They went 0-3 last week, including a sweep at the hands of Stillman in the HBCU Athletic Conference. Among junior colleges and U.S. Collegiate Athletic Association teams, got Florence-Darlington Tech staying at number 1. Pretty easy pick. They were 4-0 last week, 40-8 on the season. They've won 8 straight. USC Sumter stayed at number 2. They were 3-2 last week, although they did lose 2 out of 3 to USC Lancaster. Ryan Pikatowski, by the way, who decommitted from South Carolina earlier in this month, hit his 19th home run of the season on Sunday. That's a single season record. USC Union went up to Gaston College and came back with 3 losses, like most of the Region 10 teams do. Gaston College is 41-3 and 21-3 in the region. Florence-Darlington Tech's second best at 19-5. USC Lancaster with at 2-1 weeks, 2 games above 500 now at 22-20. I kept them at 4th. USC Salkehatchie went 0-3. They've lost 28 straight. They're 3-41. I kept them in 5th place. And Denmark Tech closed out its season with a couple of losses to the Methodist University JVs. The Panthers had a 1-12 record in their first season since bringing baseball back for the first time since 2004. Looking at some of the vibe ratings for what was going on there, I think Coastal Carolina still got good vibes. They've got a nice lead over the field in the Sun Belt. One bad thing that happened to them is they got the news this week that pitcher Hayden Johnson, who they were expecting back late in the season, is not going to be able to be back because of his injury. I guess taking longer to heal from than they thought. Clemson Tigers are feeling down because of that series lost in North Carolina. They could have really made a statement if they'd have won 2 or maybe even 3 games in that, and they had their chances. Maybe not so much on Sunday as they did on Saturday. One thing, too, the Tigers' defensive issues hurt them again several times over the weekend. It's just something they really need to get on. And, of course, they were without Tristan McClatty for a while because he suffered some fractures in his face when he was hit by a pitch in the final game of the Stanford series the previous week. But they hope to get him back at some point. They can wear some special helmet protection gear to maybe let him get back into the lineup sometime. South Carolina, it was Mizzou, but they got 3 wins. That's something they can feel good about. It seems like they've gotten better pitching. There's that number 3 spot in the rotation is still kind of up for grabs. Alex Valentin did okay, but you just don't know what you're going to get out of him. He came in relief on Thursday, and he struggled. Another possibility is Josh Gunther, but he's really had trouble the last several outings as a pitcher. Are they ready to bring Alex Philpott in? I don't know if he's stretched out enough to do that. They've been doing him some short relief. He was originally expected to be in the rotation, but if South Carolina can get a third starter with a little consistency to match up with what they've gotten from Brandon Stone and Amp Phillips lately, and also Zach Russell's been pitching really good out of the bullpen for the Gamecocks. So I think they're feeling pretty good about themselves. They played Davis this weekend and are at home against Mississippi State over the weekend. And bad thing about that is Mississippi State got swept by Tennessee this past week, so the Bulldogs are going to be mad. Wofford, I think they're feeling really good about themselves. They're atop the conference by 2 games. USC Upstate, I think they're still feeling okay. They got that loss to Charleston Southern on Sunday, but they had 2 pretty lopsided wins, and they got a nice midweek win over Western Carolina. They can put runs up, I'll tell you that. Charleston Southern, even though they dropped 2 out of 3, I think they're generally feeling okay about themselves. They're right at 500 in the conference. 21-13, they're still in good shape for back-to-back winning seasons for the first time in almost 4 decades. The Citadel, they played Wofford close. It was a good series. Just a play here or there, and they could have gotten a win or 2 out of that. They're 16-19. They still, I think they're playing good. Their RPI is good. They played a challenging schedule. People like Florida State, Kentucky, South Carolina, of course, who they beat, and a couple of other teams from some of the power conferences, and they're holding their own. They're doing all right. PC, I think they're feeling much better about themselves after those 2 wins over Winthrop. Ready. They're wanting to get back on the field again, I'm sure. In Division II, North Greenville, they're feeling probably about as good as you can feel. They got a 2-game lead with 6 games left. A 1-game lead with 6 games left in the conference schedule. They probably sitting right about where they'd like to be, maybe 1 game higher up. Because right behind them is Francis Marion. They're just 1 game back, and the Patriots are playing awfully well. USC Aiken, I think, is feeling good about themselves after getting that sweep over Augusta. A couple of them were by run rules, by the way. Lander had a nice comeback. If they'd have lost that game on Sunday and lost the series to Georgia College team with a sub 500 record, both in the conference and overall. I think they'd have been a little bit down, but they got that win. Probably had a nice little bus ride home after scoring 2 runs in the ninth on Sunday. Newberry, they got hammered for 7 home runs by Wingate Game 2 on Saturday, but you just kind of have to put that behind you and just look ahead to what you got left. I think they're feeling okay. Erskine, I think, feeling as good as they have all year. 11 of the last 12 games they've won, 3 games over 500, 4-game winning streak. I think they're not in the picture for the regular season championship in Conference Carolinas, but they're playing well as tournament time approaches. Benedict, hard to say what's going on with that. They haven't played in a week. They did lose the last time they played, and I know that nobody really likes to take a week off without playing this time of the year. So I'd say the Tigers are probably itching to get back on the field. Anderson feeling pretty good, won 2 out of 3 against Coker. I know they'd like to climb over 500 overall for the season. They're still well under 500 in the South Atlantic Conference, but getting an overall winning record could make them feel a little better. Southern Wesleyan is a rough week. Of course, they did play Belmont Abbey, which is trying to catch North Greenville, and the Crusaders put up a bunch of runs against Southern Wesleyan in that. Coker, frustrating. They probably thought they should have won the series against Anderson. They had a better record in the conference than Anderson, but Anderson took 2 out of 3, although the Cobras are still ahead of Anderson in the standings. USC Beaufort coming off that 9th inning comeback for a win today. Probably feels pretty good about themselves as they get back into conference play. And Claflin still just wanting to try to find some success so they can build on for next season. They're 4-29. They need one more win to match their win total from last year, and hopefully they can get that or exceed it. Among the NAIA schools, Spartanburg Methodist at 1-3 last week, 1921 overall. They just need to kind of disregard that loss to Georgia Gwinnett, other than say we want to be able to play like that. We want to have a team that's that good. Columbia International getting that nice win on Saturday in Game 2. They bounced back from being shut out in Game 1, so they have a good taste to leave for the weekend. Morris, they won 1 out of the 4 games they played. And losing one of their teammates, I'm sure they're a little bit down right now, but they just have to buckle up and go back at it. Bob Jones, I think, winning 2 games, put up a lot of runs, but I tell you, they go through a lot of pitchers. Both teams, I think, in the first game Saturday against Baptist U of Florida, I think both teams scored in every inning but one of a 7-inning game. So if you go to a Bob Jones game, you're going to see a bunch of runs scored. And Voorhees got beat by Stillman. Stillman's a pretty good club in the HBUAC, and not a lot to bring home positive from the Tigers after that. Among junior colleges, Florence-Darlington Tech, I know they want to catch Gaston College. They're 2 games back at the standings with 6 games left. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have something unfortunate happen to Gaston College, for lack of a better word, because the Rhinos are just like looking like they're running roughshod through the league. USC Sumter losing 2 or 3 to Lancaster, I'm sure probably hurt them a little bit. They were still putting up some runs. Probably need to tighten up the pitching a little bit, although the pitching wasn't terrible. USC Union, they just kind of needed to put that Gaston College game out of the series out of their mind. Gaston College did to them what they've been doing to teams all year. The Rhinos can score. USC Salkehatchie, I know that it's been over a month since they won. I'm sure Coach Joy would love to have something good for his players and his staff to hang their hats on as the season winds down. Just trying to look for something to win. And as I mentioned, Denmark Tech has completed its season according to what Coach Wilson told me. How about looking at some standings in the conferences? In the ACC, Georgia Tech is at 15-3. They're 2 games ahead of North Carolina. Clemson is tied they are in 15th place at 5-10. They're ahead of only California. They are 2 games behind, well, it's really a game and a half behind Virginia Tech and Notre Dame. The Tigers have Virginia, which is only 10-8 in the league. They're in 5th place, but hey, they're nationally ranked coming up this week in Charlottesville. So it's going to be a challenge for the Tigers to start climbing in the standings as you go from there. In the SEC, let me look at it right quick. I meant to call this up, but I apologize. If you'll give me just a moment. The reason I didn't have it printed out is because the Texas A&M game is supposed to be being played tonight. Hopefully they will play. But anyway, in the SEC, going into this Texas A&M game, Georgia is at 11-4. They've got a lead over Texas A&M and Texas, who are both at 9-5. Whoever wins that game, if they get to play, will be one game back of the Bulldogs at the midway point of the SEC season. The loser will be 2 games back, and they'll be tied with Florida at 9-6. Next up, we got 4 teams tied at 8-7. You got Alabama, Auburn, Arkansas, and Ole Miss. It's really a logjam. There's 5 teams at 7-8, another game back. Then you got LSU, which is only 1 game ahead of South Carolina. Gamecocks are 5-10. Game behind number 14 LSU, and 2 games up on Missouri. So the Gamecocks get a couple more wins. They probably ought to feel pretty good. They're not going to be in the 16th place for the season as things go along. Anyway, moving on to the Big South Conference. Even though they lost 2 out of 3, and you'll pardon me, I'm going to get a drink. Dr. Pepper Zero. I recommend it highly. Winthrop 72 in the conference in the Big South. High Point is at 9-3. They are basically a half game back, or a half game ahead, according to but they're behind in percentages. USC Upstate's in 3rd place at 8-7. Charleston Southern and Longwood are a couple of games back at 6-6. They're actually 2.5 games out of 1st place. With that win, the win today, PC is now 4-8. They're tied for 7th place. 9th place, tied for 8th place with UNC Asheville, and they're only a game behind Radford and Gardner-Webb. In the Coastal Athletic Association, College of Charleston out there at Sweet, they're now in 3rd place in the South Division. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Campbell's going to win that unless there's a collapse. The Camels have a 5.5 game lead over UNCW in the standings. UNCW's in 2nd. College of Charleston's in 3rd. The Cougars are only 1 game behind the Seahawks. In the North Division, Monmouth has a 14-4 record. They're ahead of Northeastern, who is right behind them, 2.5 games back. In the Southern Conference, and pardon me for having to squint to read this because the Southern Conference has maybe the worst website I've seen, and the offering of baseball standings is terrible. Wofford is 8-1 in the league. They're 2 games up on East Tennessee State and Western, as I mentioned. The Citadel right now, after their 3-game sweep, is now in 6th place at 3-8. Moving on to the Sun Belt Conference. The Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina have a 4-game lead over Texas State as they move past the midway point of the season, conference season. Southern Miss and South Alabama, Louisiana Monroe, Troy, and Marshall are all 1 more game back behind Texas State in that Sun Belt. Moving on to Division II. North Greenville has a 23-4 record in Conference Carolinas. They're 2 games up on Francis Marion and Belmont Abbey. 1 game up, and 2 games up on Young Harris, which suffered a surprise loss to Emmanuel on Saturday. The Erskine is at 17-10. They are 6 games back, and Southern Western is at 8-19 in the conference standings. In the Peach Belt Conference, North Georgia clinched the regular season championship in the Peach Belt. They're coached by former South Carolina pitcher Nolan Belcher. The Nighthawks are 24-3. USC Aiken is in 7th place. They are 5.5 games back, but they cannot catch the Nighthawks. Landers at 17-10. They're in 4th place behind Columbus State. USC Beaufort is at 4-20, and Claflin is in last place at 1-23. In the South Atlantic Conference, Catawba has a 3-game edge on Wingate in the standings. The Indians are 23-4. Wingate is 20-7. Lenore Ryan is a half game back of Wingate at 19-7-1. Newberry is tied for 4th place with Lincoln Memorial at 17-10. Coker is at 9-18, tied with Tusculum, and Anderson is at 8-19 in the standings. In the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, Spring Hill is running away with that. They got a 23-4 record. Albany State was 18-6. Edward Waters is 18-9, and Benedict is in 6th place at 14-10. In NAI, in the Appalachian Athletic Conference standings, Johnson moved into 1st place this week. They are 17-3. Milligan is at 20-4. Tennessee Western is at 18-6. Spartanburg Methodist is at 11-10. They're tied with Pikeville for 6th place. Columbia International is in 9th place at 12-14 as the schedule winds down. In the HBCU Athletic Conference, Voorhees is in 4th place in the East Division with a 6-10 record. Talladega is in 1st place at 16-1. 2nd place is Stillman, which swept Voorhees this past week. In Region 10, junior colleges, Gaston College, as I mentioned, is cruising along. They're 42-3, 21-3 in the region. Florence-Darlington Tech is 19-5, 40-8 overall. USC Sumter is 12-11. They're still over 500, even though they lost a series this weekend. 26-16 overall. USC Lancaster's at 9-14, 22-20. USC Union is at 8-15. They're 25-19. And Salcahatchee's at 1-22 and 3-41. I think it's a pretty good thing for Region 10 that 5 of the 6 teams do have winning records. How about looking ahead to next week's schedule, or this coming week's schedule? Not a lot of action on Monday. All we have going on is the Conference Carolinas Junior Varsity, or developmental team tournament, if you will, in Florence. In that, the semifinals are going to be at noon and 3 o'clock at Sparrow Stadium. Barton's JVs play Belmont Abbey at noon. The Southern Wesleyan JV play Ferrum at 3. And the winners of those 2 games play at 6 o'clock for the developmental tournament championship. Looking at Tuesday's schedule, Clemson goes up to Charlotte again. They're going to play University of Charlotte. Also, South Carolina is at home against Davidson. At North Carolina and the Charlotte Clemson games at 6 o'clock at Truist Field. The South Carolina Davidson games at 6:30 in Columbia. Gamecocks with a chance to hit 500 for the first time in a while. Elsewhere, Landers at Erskine in a nice matchup. A couple of teams that are playing well for the season. North Greenville at Lincoln Memorial in a non-conference test. Anderson at North Georgia. Presbyterian is at Wofford. See if the PC can carry the magic from the weekend over to Wofford. The Terriers are playing well. Coastal Carolina goes up to Winston-Salem to play Wake Forest at 6 o'clock. Citadel and Charleston Southern have a rematch up at Nielsen Field. Of course, the Bulldogs won this past week. UNC Pembroke is at Coker. Pembroke's a good team. USC Upstate is down at College of Charleston. Cougars try to get closer to 500. Wingate is at Francis Marion, a nice matchup of ranked teams on Tuesday. And Winthrop is at Elon. Also, in junior college play, got a neutral site game at Mooneyham Field in Spartanburg. Nationally ranked Walter State, a power out of Tennessee, is going to play USC Sumter for a doubleheader at 1 o'clock. Not much going on in the state on Wednesday. We've got a JV matchup. Florence-Darlington Tech playing the Columbia International JV. And USC Aiken is at Newberry at 6 o'clock. On Thursday, Clemson opens the series at Virginia. This is a big one. They got to win maybe all 3 to really stay in the tournament picture, NCAA tournament picture. First game's at 7 o'clock on Thursday. Also on Thursday, Voorhees is at Oakwood for a doubleheader. On Friday, Bob Jones is at area rival Toccoa Falls at 2 o'clock to open a series. We'll just go through the whole schedule on Friday. Coker's at Carson Newman at 2. Spartanburg Methodist is at Union Commonwealth. They used to be just Union University. 2 o'clock. Voorhees completes his series with Oakwood at 2. Francis Marion is at Erskine. Erskine gets a chance to play a spoiler in Conference Carolinas with that series. Southern Wesleyan is at Barton. Shawan is at North Greenville. If things go to form, North Greenville should win at least 2 of that one, probably 3. Carolina University is at Columbia International. The Citadel's at East Tennessee State. The Bulldogs try to get back into the SoCon race. Wofford's at UNC Asheville in a non-conference series. Catawba's at Newberry at 6 o'clock. The Indians are ranked. Claflin's at Flagler. The Panthers trying to get some good things happening. Charleston, College of Charleston is at William and Mary in the CAA. Georgia State is at Coastal Carolina. The Chanticleers are home. High Point's at Charleston Southern in a test in Big South Conference play. Landers at USC Beaufort at 6 o'clock. PC is at Longwood at 6. USC Aiken is at Georgia College at 6. USC Upstate at Winthrop at 6. That's the big one in the Big South. Virginia Wise is at Anderson. And as I mentioned, Mississippi State and South Carolina play a series in Founders Park. In the junior college ranks, we've got USC Salkehatchie going up to Gaston College. That may not be pretty. USC Sumter's at Florence-Darlington Tech at 1 o'clock. And USC Union is at USC Lancaster for a doubleheader. Excuse me. Also, Payne is at Morris this weekend. And Benedict, I'm trying to track down the schedule here, is at home against Tuskegee, field playing conditions permitting. Anyway, thanks for watching. That was the week in baseball. That was the week that was in baseball for South Carolina for April the 6th through the 12th. You can always follow what's going on in the Palmetto State in baseball at palmettostatebaseball.com. I give updates during the day at my X handle of Palmetto Base. I'd love to hear from you. Email me at rudyjones@palmettostatebaseball.com or message me on Palmetto Base on X. I just want to know if anybody's listening to this, watching this, if you're getting anything out of it, or if I'm just doing this for myself. Let me know. Is it worth the effort? But anyway, thanks again for watching if you have watched this far. And for now, this is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com saying good night. Jesus loves you.